Well, howdy there, Internet students. Mr. Hermanson again. Today, we're going to start Chapter 5, and our lesson today will be on the perimeter, circumference, and area. Actually, perimeter and circumference are the same thing. It's just that circumference is how the word for the distance around a circle, where perimeter is the distance around anything. Um, and then area. I hope you watched the two videos so that you have been reminded about what we look for when we're finding perimeter and area and where pi comes from. All right, so first thing we're going to do is find the distance around these figures. Now, basically, all I want you to do here is make sure you have a measurement for every side. When you see the same mark on both sides of an object, there and there, that means those two side lengths are the same, so we can transfer that 8 up to the side opposite. And you probably know that rectangles have equal opposite side lengths. So, and like this square here, notice that all sides have one mark. That indicates in geometry that all sides are the same. This triangle is a special kind of triangle, and these marks tell you why. It is an isosceles triangle, which means two sides are the same. So both these sides are 6.3. On a sector, in order to find the perimeter, and we might call that half of the circumference since it's part of a circle, we have two parts to measure. We have the distance. Let me do this in red. The distance, the circular distance, plus the distance across, which looks like a diameter. All right, so you just need to add those two. So on this first one, we're going to add the 4 twice, and then add the 2/8, and that gives us 16 plus 8 is 24. Now, a perimeter is a straight line distance, so we would just say inches. Okay, go ahead and do the rest of them. Add all the sides and see if you get them right. Here's the answers I got for those. And the one thing I'd like to mention is when you do your homework, don't put in this labels like I'm doing right here. That makes it too hard for me to give answers. Just give the number answer. All right. So here's some definitions for circles. Circle is a set of all points, all of which are the same distance from a given point. That distance is called the radius. Okay, so the radius is one of these distances. And they're going to be all the same no matter where you are from the center to the outside. Okay, diameter is a line that goes through the center and lands on the circle. All right, and the radius is the distance from the center to the circle. Okay, find the missing radius or diameter of each. Now, since there's two radiuses in every diameter, the diameter equals, and you can even make a little formula for this, 2 times the radius. So go ahead and fill in those missing parts. Make sure that your radius is half of your diameter. All right. Okay, now to find circumference, we're going to use a little formula, and hopefully you figured out that this formula relates to pi, because what you found out was that pi is equal to the circumference divided by the diameter of any circle. So, so we can use this formula to find the circumference. We're just going to backtrack. Since circumference divided by diameter is equal to pi, that means circumference must equal diameter times pi. All right, and know that in that diameter you could also have 2 radiuses, because radius is half the diameter. Okay, so I'll do one with you, and then you can try the other ones. Make sure you realize whether you're using the diameter or the radius. So if I use this formula, circumference equals diameter times pi. And for pi, if your calculator has a pi button, you can use that. Otherwise, you could use 3.14, or another approximation we sometimes use is 22/7. I'm going to use 3.14 just in case your calculator doesn't have a pi button. So I need my diameter. So if my radius is 3, my diameter is 6. So I'm going to take 6 times pi, and I'm going to use 3.14 for pi. So on my calculator, it's 6 times 3.14. You'll get a little more accuracy if you use your pi button. But if I do that, I'm going to get 18.84. Now, just so we get in a habit, if you need to round somewhere because you get such a long decimal number, let's kind of make it a habit of rounding to the nearest hundredth. And that one I didn't have to. But go ahead. These give you the diameter. You need to multiply those by pi to get the circumference. Go ahead and try those. All right, those are the answers I got for those. This next question says, what is the diameter of a circle with a circumference of 122? So we are given the circumference. I'm just going to write this down. Circumference equals diameter times pi. We know that. Okay, and I'm given the circumference. Now you get that by taking your diameter times pi. I'm going to just say that's 3.14 for this. So I'm going to backtrack on this. I'm going to take my circumference divided by my pi to get my diameter, because I need to know what number times 3.14 equals that. So I'm going to do 122.46 divided by 3.14. And that gives me 39. Because that turned out to a whole number, we can see that whoever figured this circumference must have used 3.14 for pi, because it worked out so good. And that is inches. All right. Okay, now just a reminder of some formulas you use to find area. Basically, for area, you need to find the number of square units inside there. Since these are all drawn on a grid, you can see that there's 8 units this way, and there's 4 stacks of that. So, so that makes sense that we do length times width to get that. Okay, for area, you take the side times itself, because whatever you have for the length will be exactly the same as the width, so the number of layers you have of that. Now, I'm just going to draw this in on your triangle so you can see why we divide by or multiply, take half of length times width. I hope you can tell that this triangle is actually half of this rectangle, right? And this rectangle would be, area would be the base, which is 4, or the length, which is 4, times the height, which is 6. So, so you need to do half of base times height, as it says right here. So go ahead and try those, see what you get. I hope you remembered to multiply 1/2 times 6 times 4. Now multiplying a half is the same as dividing by 2. So basically that's 24 divided by 2 is 12 for the triangle. All right. The way you find the area of a circle, and again this relates to pi, is you take the number pi times the radius times itself. And that's this formula using exponents to show the radius times itself. Okay. Now, sometimes we like to give our answer in terms of pi. That's when we don't want to approximate, because remember, pi is an irrational number. It would go on forever and ever, so there's no perfect version of it using decimal numbers. So, so you have to take radius times pi to get area. So if the radius is 15, you do 15 times pi. And 15 times 15 is 225. And if you just put a pi next to it, that means times pi. Now, if we want to approximate that using 3.14, we'll just take that 225 times 3.14. All right? So we're going to do both here. We're going to give it in terms of pi. So I'm going to do, I'll do my work over here for this one, and you can then do your own. So we're going to do 3 times 3, 3 squared, times pi. 3 squared is 9. So in terms of pi, it's just 9 pi. Now I'm going to approximate that 9 times 3.14. And so on my calculator, 9 times 3.14 gives me 28.26. Now that is rounded because we rounded pi. Okay. Now remember, these are areas, so we're talking about square units here. So this is square centimeters on both these. Go ahead, you try 16 and 17 there. All right, so here are my answers. Just a reminder that when you do it in terms of pi, that means times pi, right? And we don't put the symbol in there. The other thing about that in terms of pi, a lot of my 8th graders like that because that saves them one step from having to do this. And the answer is more exact, okay? So, we're here, we have some word problems. Make sure you know what you're looking for. So what formula you need. We need the pi r squared formula to find the area of a circle. And now if we have the radius, we just do pi times 7 squared. In terms of pi, 7 squared is 49 times pi. And then we can approximate that to 49 times 3.14, which is 153.86. Okay. Now, if we are given the diameter, because the formula has the radius, we need to change this. So our radius is equal to 8 feet, half of our diameter. And so we're going to do pi times 8 squared here, which is 64 pi, which is approximately 64 times 3.14 equals 200.96. About. All right. Go ahead. You try the next two. Oh wait, we got to backtrack on these. I'll do one and then I'll let you do one. Now we are backtracking here, right? Because we have the area. So I'm going to do this pi r squared equals the area, which is 28.26. Now I need to figure out what the radius is. The way you backtrack one of these is we know what pi is, so let's take our 28.26, and since this is multiplication, when I backtrack I'm going to divide, so I'm going to divide that by pi. So 28.26 divided by 3.14 equals 9. Now this is cool. This equals 9, but that's my radius squared. So now I have to figure out what number times itself equals 9. So I need to do the square root of 9, which is 3. We know that in our head. All right, so 3, and here's your check. 3 times 3 times 3.14 pi r squared. If that checks out and equals 28.26, then you're good. All right, you try the next. All right, I got 5. How about you? All right. You guys, since we watched that video on pi, we're not going to do this page. All right. So I think you're ready to go ahead and try these homework problems. If you have any questions, of course, you can message me. Talk to you soon.